This is a demo of a technique that I like to use for removing backscatter from images. It's especially useful in images that have a lot of backscatter to take care of. This particular example has quite a bit over here in the blue water area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this image and move into the upper corner so that we can see what's going on a little more easily. If I look over here in the history palette, I can see that so far only one thing has happened to this image. We've opened it. We haven't done anything else. I'm going to come up here to the filter menu and choose a filter in the noise section called Dust and Scratches. This will bring up a dialog box for the controls of this filter. It has two controls, a threshold control that we never use and a radius control which will control the amount of backscatter removal we wind up with in our image. And you can see as I slowly increase this amount, the backscatter goes away a little bit more each time. I'm going to accept it at a level of about 5 pixels. You can use more or less than that depending on your image. Now when I look at my image, I see that all my nice detail is all gone. It looks almost like an oil painting. But this is not a problem. What we're going to do is we're going to use a special feature of Photoshop called a history state and a history brush, and we're going to tame this dust and scratches filter. I come over to the history palette, and next to the dust and scratches filter I'm going to click on this little box, and it's going to move an icon in there called a history state. This is the place that the history brush will use as a source of pixels to paint with. Now I'm going to click back on my first step that I did, the open step, and when that happens my image gets crisp and sharp again, all the backscatter comes back, and this dust and scratches filter is grayed out. It's actually a future filter step. It hasn't happened yet, but it still is set as my history state. Now I'm going to come over here and select in the tool palette the history brush, and you'll notice that the icon for the history brush matches the same little icon for the history state. Now backscatter is really unique stuff. It is always lighter than the surrounding background area. So what we really want to do here is we want to darken the pixels that are backscatter and not mess with anything else. So I want to darken the white specks, I want to make them bluer, and I don't want to mess with the blue specks around there. So to do that, I'm going to come up above my image and you'll see some options for your brushes, and one of the options is called mode. This is actually where you set your painting mode or your blend mode. And if I pull this down, you'll see that we have a lot of different modes that we can use, and there's one called darken, which will only darken pixels if possible. So if I select this, what's going to happen when I paint is if the history brush can make a pixel darker using that dust and scratches future filter layer as the source, if it can make it darker, it will, and if it can't make it darker, it won't do anything at all. So I can choose a nice big brush. I have a fairly good size one now, but I don't have to be too terribly careful. I'm going to use the shortcut key of the square bracket shortcut key, make my brush even bigger, and now I'm just going to start painting strokes up here, and you'll see that as I paint, the white specks go away, but nothing else goes away. I can even come in and get my brush over the edge of my actual detail, and if I haven't set my threshold too high or my radius too high in the filter, I won't even bother that detail by painting over it, because it's only going after the backscatter, the things that are lighter. So I can just paint down through here and get rid of backscatter a little bit at a time as I go. I can hit on the inside, get rid of stuff in there, paint right over my actual image and not cause it any damage. If I look back over here in my history palette again, you'll see that up here I have my initial opening state, and then I have a whole lot of brush strokes that I was painting with the history brush. And if we go all the way down to the bottom, you'll see at the very bottom here, every time I painted with the history brush, it pushed the dust and scratches filter a little bit further in the future. So we never actually got to it. We never applied it to the whole image. We only applied it to the backscatter because we told the brush only to make things darker. So it's a very quick and easy technique, and it's a good way to get rid of a lot of backscatter quickly.